Well, hello everybody. Tonight I'm going to do a recreation of the French debates that were hosted here in Canada with Pierre Poilievre, Mark Carney, Yves Francois Blanchette, and Jagmeet Singh. This is going to go through all the questions that were asked of them, but from the perspective of Donald J. Trump's Canada, the 51st state, answering every question that your politicians not only failed to answer, failed to deliver any real credible platform. For the first time ever in Canadian debate history, they came without platforms, without any financial truth or reality in hand to give to the debate hosts or any of the media to screen, go through, and fact check. Completely empty-handed. This presentation of Canada, the 51st state via the United States of America, and Donald Trump's non-negotiable offer of Canada entirely is going to be completed with all financial truths and realities at hand. Now, I'm not reading off any cue card, but I'm going to turn to read the questions to you one by one. Some have follow-ups attached to them as they were done in the debate. But, of course, I give you this. I know it's hard to see, but it's Donald J. Trump, Canada, the 51st state, French leadership debates that were hosted today Canada-wide. First question, how will statehood fix the terrible cost of living that's befallen all Canadians and First Peoples? I'm adding that. Now, first, everybody, there's a major difference between the United States of America and Canada as we know it. That's in governmental representation. Canada is much more in federal means, 9 times more burdensome on the much less population than the American federal system. To put it in perspective, every congressman in the United States or congresswoman is assigned nearly the same amount almost of electorate, over 750,000 Americans per each. In contrast, in Canada, it's sometimes less than 100,000. Top out highest is 110,000, but many are way below that. Right there, we've already exceeded 7.5 times. Under the Donald J. Trump imposed federal constitution of the country of Canada, your cost of government is reduced in taxation by 60%, right across the board. It's not even just the federal, it's the dissolving of the provinces that are converted into districts and a multitude of district systems in the United States of America, which brings me to your cost of living. Through the district system, you will get the American financial district system, taking away all your financial crown institutions. You know them as chartered banks through the Bank of Canada and the Crown of Canada. That will be no more. And in fact, Canadians, all crown land in that financial sector through the Bank of Canada and the Crown of Canada will be gone. Meaning all that land will be divided amongst First Peoples, giving them upwards of 300 times more land than they have now. They'll get that. They'll get the power of a state upon each and every band first. America first, American Indians first for Canadian First Peoples. This is your Métis, Inuit, and numbered name treaty Indians. Those who got the least get the most to get up to those numbers. If you want to know how it works, 1/50th of the United States, 50 states, is divided unto the First Peoples of the United States. You can look at their 6.5 million population. That's what the program gives for all Canadians First Peoples. So for numbered Indians, they get a mass amount more than everybody else. Then on to named, Inuit, and Métis, all in that ratio. What you have, what you are entitled to, your choice, you constitute the power of a state, full sovereignty of a state. tremendous change in cost of living, having your own resources, self-government, self-determination. Indian Act is gone. 4 new Indian laws are proposed to all of you. Self-determination, self-government, full settlement of the claims, and absolutely land back. Where it's your resources, your systems, you constitute it, they hand over the power of a state. Absolute law in the United States from 1920 all the way up to 1975 completed. Those who constitute get. Now, for all Canadians, with that being done, massive land within 2 hours of where you live today will be released for the first time in Canadian history. It will bring the housing crisis, the 70% overvaluation of Canadian markets, down to nothing. Overnight, you will reduce all housing overvaluation to nearly nothing. But don't you worry about your mortgages, your debts outstanding, because USA does a dollar for dollar, like every other state of the union in all of their history. No matter your debt, your income level, or your savings, you will get dollar for dollar in all respects. More than that, a massive change occurs with the dissolution of Canadian chartered institutions. They'll all be removed in a new law imposed federally that is binding in the United States of America, erasing your cost of living. And how does that work? Currently in the Canadian financial system, it is you, the subjects defined in the Constitution, who must eat the inflation. What do I mean by that? When you borrow for a mortgage, the lender's not on the hook, you are. And in fact, even though they negotiated a lifetime mortgage with you, they get renewal periods to place more inflationary costs upon you. They don't eat it. This is not the truth of the 12 district system of the United States over the 50 states. Yes, multiple states in financial districts, banking districts. It is the lender who eats the inflation. So those chartered banks that hold your mortgages and debts today will be bankrupt when the housing markets are brought down to a normal scale, an American scale, a real scale, because land availability has been made to all of you, just like the First Peoples. Your debts will be purchased by the American institutions who will give you reasonable mortgages, meaning the chartered bank, Canadian banks, go bankrupt, not you, the Canadian people. Your mortgages, your loans are intact. They'll be re-registered at real value on that pennies on the dollar will be registered in your name. You will be safe. Your charter banks will not be. They will be bought and purchased pennies on the dollar by American institutions. Your cost of living in rents and absolutely mortgages goes way down. More than in some cases, depending on the province. British Columbia, Ontario, for example, you could see housing prices go down more than 600%. Money you can't imagine in real economics and real American financial economics. Other costs of living. Folks, you will not be competing with the United States. You will be in a union with the United States. All trade barriers disappear. With the disappearing of the provinces transformed into the American district system, the congressional district system, and even at the state level district system, you no longer will be bound by all the barriers put up interprovincially. That's illegal in the United States of America. In the United States of America, since the inception of the Constitution and their Commerce Act that's binding upon all 50 states, you will get that instead of the barrier system, which is the Constitution of Canada. You will all be allowed, no matter how big or how small you are. You can be the average individual or the massive multi-global enterprise. You will get the same trade advantage. And in fact, in the United States, under the Commerce Act, The bigger you get, the further you go, you are hit with a franchise tax, which does not exist in Canada in no way, shape, or form the same way. Not even close. What will happen is the bigger a company gets, the further it branches out through the districts and into other states or all the way through to other countries. They will pay a 6% back to everybody implicated along the way. An even system for all. Equality of all, not assigned equity by the Crown, which is the Canadian system today, where the little guy is squished by the big Crown giant, and the little guy can never compete. Always subject to, always on the side of inflation, always responsible for the inflation largely your politicians create. This will not be the same as a State of the Union. And more than that, the biggest and most important thing about cost of living that will reduce absolutely for every Canadian First Peoples is the beautiful $7 trillion value of the Canadian public universal healthcare system. Folks, right now, in massive immigration to likes of which America can't imagine, it's actually illegal in the United States. States don't get the power of immigration. Only the federal government does. Canada would no longer have that 20% increase in its health services. It would go back down to 1 for 1, meaning one person, one payer system, regional district system that does not exist in the United States. It's a $7 trillion value for all 50 states of the Union. $7 trillion savings for the federal government. Only Canada, the 51st state, the only thing that not only Donald J. Trump and the Republicans want from Canada, but also the Democrats. That $7 trillion gift of universal health care that can only be completed by a judicial amendment procedure in the United States of America. A very old system they have in place now, they can't change on their own. It's not possible. There was no health care in the inception of the United States. Through the first Constitution that only ran more than 238 years ago, that ran for 9 years before that, there was no such thing as health care. There was a Continental Army. And they had a central system where all taxpayers paid for that system. Unfortunately today, that centralized socialist monster has become the largest source of financial distress for the federal government of the United States. Impossible, even though the power of healthcare is for the states, to get the states to take it upon themselves. Federal government's stuck. They can't do the Article 5 challenge. They can't get a supermajority to fix it. Donald J. Trump and even Bernie Sanders, two polar opposites, want to do this. It's the largest source of distress of the federal government today, probably in the world, is the American healthcare system publicly. And it doesn't even cover everybody. It covers a very limited amount of Americans, costing many, many times more than the regional district healthcare system of Canada. That's right. America doesn't have a regional healthcare district system. They can't get it because the states won't do it. But Canada, the 51st state, coming into the Union as the 51st state, would challenge that to hold their own and not be liable for all the federal debt and health bankruptcies that occur in the states every day of the week. Plus the monster cost of a system that's broken because it's super centralized in the public side. Canada, in a judicial challenge, will win the Supreme Court of the United States while negotiating their Enabling Act, and that would be in the Enabling Act. A $7 trillion federal savings to the United States, pulling them from over the red line into the end of America, back down to a manageable level, a universal health care for all. 3.5 times the value of all of Canada-USA annual trade. 3.5 times the value because of its effect on all the other 50 states. This is what America wants from you. This is what America wants from Canada, the 51st state. Sure, resources are important, but again, all the resources in the world of Canada today and the resources of America and that back and forth exchange is 3.5 times less than what universal healthcare from Canada presents to the United States, and how much of transformative that is for the entirety of America. Question 2. How can energy be transformative and impactful while addressing climate change? And there's this part 2 to this that they asked all the leaders. Energy in Canada will be transformative immediately. And not only Canada, everybody. It will be absolutely and unequivocally changed forever in the United States of America, because now we will be the 51st State of the Union, part and parcel, one country with all the others, with no barriers to trade, none whatsoever. There's a magical place upon this earth. It sits up in a region called Athabasca in northern Saskatchewan and an overlap into Alberta, where many, many hundreds of millions of years ago, a dense star matter crashed into the earth at that spot and left an unimaginable amount of super energized ore, matter that is fernucular. It's fernucular, highly enriched ore right out of the ground, 20%. It's the world's single biggest and most highly enriched source of uranium in this entire world. There is no other equal source. You can look at Kazakhstan and Russia has that, and USA must buy from Russia. And unfortunately, Canada, not being of the allies of World War II, not a United Nations Security Council member, is under non-proliferation. We can't explore any sense of uranium past the 5% minimum, 3.5 to 5 in medical. That's as far as we go. As a state of the Union, that ore becomes available to all of America, including all the districts of the state of Canada. State of Canada holds it. All nuclear will now be from 2 to 3 year fuel cells, some just a year, will transform into 30 to 60 year generating fuel cells. The amount of waste, cost of energy goes down more than 60-fold. Canadians, Americans, this is transformative. This blows Russia out of the water. This can be done immediately upon statehood. That can be set up immediately with all the resources from all of the 50 states. And of course, everyone sharing equally in that franchise system where there are no fights. Everybody knows they're getting their 6% along the way. And that's good for the environment. Anyone who doubts that, that is tremendously more than North America could ever come up with for the environment. Blows all source green energy out of the water. And there's no question that all electricity generation can be done in that clean source. Remember, 30 to 60 times cleaner than anything else available in Canada today, or ever could be imagined with the technology we know of. A follow-up question to this, when they got into this, how would it be for province and federal priority? Folks, provinces are terminated in the 51st state. They are no more. Those rulers drawing lines with rulers, that's gone. It's Canada, the 51st state. In upwards of 52 districts, congressional districts, based on likeness, population equality. That's how they're drawn. Same industry, same geography, same climate, same elevation. Many complicated factors to create equality of the people, not equity. That's the system we're going into. There will be no fight for provinces because they won't exist. It will be a state system with many more districts. Think of the provinces losing all of that bloat of government, not frontline workers. We're talking about the provincial government bloat, all gone. And you're put into a district model system. Sure, there's a state level legislature for all of Canada with an elected Senate and all of it, but it won't even be larger than Saskatchewan's legislature. Think about that, with an equal Senate. Think about that, Canadians. Canada-wide. That's what will happen. Number 3, how will the trade war with the USA be ended? And what about the Canadian identity, sovereignty, immigration, and foreign affairs? So I'm going to get to the last two, and I'll go back through that because those were all follow-ups. But I want to hit on Canadian identity and sovereignty. Canadians and First Peoples, you do not have any sovereignty in Canada. You live on less than 9% of this country, this vast country. You're restricted to 9%. Your crown governments, federally and provincially, enjoy all the other 91%, them and their wealthy global friends, all at your expense. You're lucky to even get a job, and these days that's not looking good. You compete with the United States for interests not of yours, because you don't have the sovereignty. Your identity's lost. We all know this. We all feel it every day. We just saw the debates tonight, the French debates. Where was the Canadian identity there? Seems lost in the wind. Canada, the 51st state, absolutely for the first time in all Canadian and all First Peoples history, you get the sovereignty. You codify that. You codify you in the first ever Constitution of the state of Canada. Because I promise you, in your provinces, on your reserves, there are no sovereign rights of any of you or any constitutions that articulate that. Not federally, and certainly it doesn't exist in any province or territory at the regional level. Completely absent. When you become the 51st state, sovereignty by the Constitution of the United States belongs to the state. You get the resources, you get the property, you get it all. The federal list is short in the United States, and they don't take your powers. There's 50 states that clearly prove all this to all of you today. You can't argue that. Today we see that the federal government picks and chooses whatever they want, and none of the provinces have ever codified your sovereignty or any First Peoples sovereignty ever. Even though it's asked for since 1867, never once. The only sovereignty belongs to the elected and the appointed. You get the right, the one right, to participate in an election of these people every 4 years with no say, no power, checks and balances. There's no accountability. You're subject to. For the first time, you, the people, in a 2-year period through your Enabling Act, will be charged by the United States to fill out a list provided by the Congress to go through all of that. You will all do it in every town hall, community, Indian reserve, and it's different constitutions for the First Peoples on their sovereignty versus Canadian sovereignty. Little nations within the nation, but you will all do this, and you will follow the list of how it has to go, and then you will all hold a referendum, and you all must vote it in majority, each band and all Canadians. That's how 51st state works. America doesn't force anybody. You get the work done. You design your state. You seize your sovereignty. You vote it through. You keep your identity. Nothing changes. Every state is different in the Union with their own identity, brought together in a more perfect union as one when it matters, on world events, on many other things. Now, this is important. They ask about immigration and foreign affairs. The federal government of the United States will take care of all of that on foreign affairs. As for immigration, There will be no more provincial mass immigration. There will be no more mass immigration federally. To put it in perspective how much money Canadians waste on immigration, for the amount of money the federal government spends on its military annually is the equivalent per person per capita than Canadians spend on immigration. You will lose that immigration model. You will gain the American immigration model. That money goes back to all of you. That saves money. That changes the game. There's no more overvaluation. It becomes illegal. Now there's naturalization laws. Those who want to come and work, who have something to bring, that will be how it is. Not a free-for-all. Not a world where all those who just flood, driving your wages down. There will be no more bottom of the barrel. Currently, right now, in this system for Canada, our GDP on average for all provinces is below the worst state of the union now. That's attributed to mass immigration starting in 2011 with Stephen Harper and ramping up with one Justin Trudeau. This is the truth. This is the American truth. Nobody can deny. All of it provided in real numbers, easily verifiable, easily backed up in law, absolute, and in constitutional law comparable to all of the 50 state constitutions of the Union. It's you, the people, for the first time in your lives. God bless everybody. That's an answer to all the questions that clearly makes your life tremendously more than can ever be imagined by the crown liars Mark Carney, Pierre Poilievre, Yves Blanchette, and Jagmeet Singh. Then none of them had the self-respect and oath of office enough character to come forward. They treat you with so much contempt. They couldn't even provide you a financial rollout of their plans. Why? Because we all know why. It's lies. Lies that they don't have to honor, like they never do. Tell you everything you want to hear, get elected, and completely do the opposite. Where did this come from? You didn't campaign on this. You're not following your platform. And now they don't even roll out a platform. We are in the year 2025, and not one of your federal parties rolled out a platform with any financial at all, which has never been done in the history of any federal Canadian debate ever. This is the first time. Get used to it, Canadians. You're dealing with now socialists and fascists who are going to drive you absolutely to full-on civil law socialist or full-on communist, because those are the only real economies outside of we the people, United States of America, that we can go to. America is a $30 trillion economy. What's that leave us incomparable out there? European Union or Communist China? That's all there is. And anyone telling you anything else has filled you full of a lie. European Union will never take us. We're not on the continent. We don't match them in any of our treaty agreements, none whatsoever. We're banned from the European Union. If you look and you do a quick Google search, you'll find we have lost every attempt, been vetoed out of the European Union every time. Since 2017, this proposed treaty has never been ratified between Canada and EU. Liberal, conservative, didn't matter. Even before that, we can go back to the 90s. Every time Europe has said, no, Canada, no. So where does that leave you? I can tell you right now, a majority of our trading partners are all Communist China and their affiliates, their Asian affiliates, who are entirely in with China. They have no choice. It's in their sphere of influence. This is where Canada has gone, with liberals and conservatives, with NDP and Bloc all along the way saying, sure, great, let's do it. That's the crown. That's the evil of this country, that America is going to end and give the power to you, the people. Give you, the people, the opportunity for your own prosperity. You deserve it. You've just got to take that chance. God bless. That's my video. Those are my questions. Share, share, share. Get it out there. It can't be myth busted. Bye now.